Hi, my name is Christina. I am Whilst Iris Snaps on Instagram and Whilst Iris Snaps Designs, and this is a video about cross stitch. This is video number 9 and it's been a while since my last video. I had completely underestimated how little stitchy wise I would get done during the children's summer holidays. But never mind, I'm here now and I have lots to share as always. I have some stitching from the archives, just one framed piece this time. I have a little bit of stitching to show. I have some purchases, a few purchases that I've made this month. I have my freebies to show. I released them a little earlier this month. I have some previous releases to chat about, Bethia, Fenshaw, 1861, and Catherine Annie Jupp, 1877. And I have a new release, Miss Winifred Webb, 1869. And then I'm going to finish with my first ever giveaway. Since my last video, I have reached 5,000 subscribers. So as I said, I'll do a giveaway at the end of the video. So let's get cracking. First up, stitching from the archives. And this is a Hummel that is called Sunny Weather. And rather unusually, I haven't stitched the date on this one, but the framer has written on the reverse of the frame 1996. So I stitched this 25 years ago, and I seem to remember it cost a fortune to frame because of that triple mount. And I stitched maybe 4 or 5 of these Hummels and gave a few away as gifts. I know my auntie has one in her bungalow, and this particular one resides at my mum and dad's house. And I stitched it on 16 count white or maybe cream Aida using 2 strands of DMC thread. And you can get these in kit, or you can buy just the chart, and mine was just the chart that I bought. If you've stitched any of these, either recently or 20, 30 years ago, I'd love to see them. Do let me know. Okay, so what have I been stitching this month? Well, I wanted to stitch something to commemorate a rather bizarre event that happened in our house maybe a week ago. My husband and I were sat watching TV. It was quite late in the evening, about 10 o'clock, and I saw something fly in front of my face, about 6 inches in front of my face. And my initial thought was that Tom had thrown something across the room, as you do. And I looked over at Tom and he looked as shocked as I did and said to me, "There's a bat in the house." So it was a bat, a pipistrelle to be exact, that had flown in front of my face. So for the next few minutes, we sat in shock, it was rather surreal, and watched a bat flying about our kitchen and living area. It was flying really slowly, really gracefully, and rather surprisingly to me, in absolute silence. So as I said, we sat and watched it for a while, and I said to my husband, "I'm going to go and get Isaac, our son, because he is obsessed with bats." So I ran out of the kitchen and didn't close the door behind me, and the bat followed me. It followed me into the hall, and it flew up the stairs and into Isaac's bedroom. Luckily, I had managed to call up, and he'd been in bed about an hour by then. "There's a bat coming up the stairs," and he'd heard and jumped out of bed. So by the time the bat got into Isaac's bedroom, he was coming out of his bedroom door. I'm going to put a video in here of the chaos that ensued.
Oh, I love it.
Well, we're not keeping it, right?
only in this house. And that was my husband that you could hear saying, we're not keeping it. So it took about 10 minutes for Tom to coax it out of Isaac's bedroom window. So no pet bat for Isaac. Anyway, I went on the lookout for Halloween charts that have bats in them, and I found a new to me designer on Etsy, and she is Queen Bee Handmade. I'll put the link in the drop down box below. And there we go, 2 bats. And I just love the witch's feet there. And I managed to get it stitched up. Although I am going to stitch the witch's feet for the back of the pillow. And I stitched it on 36 count green poison from XDew Designs, using some Silks for You silk thread that Michelle, Mama Loves You GB, sent for my birthday. And I hope to fill my dough ball, it isn't really a dough ball, but I want to fill it with autumnal and Halloween stitches. As you can see, I've got some way to go yet. Got my work cut out for me. And for those stitches in the UK, I purchased this from TK Maxx, but I don't think they have any left, I'm afraid. Now to purchases. I don't seem to be able to go a full month without treating myself to one of Penelope's Pocket project bags, and I think this month's is my favourite ever. So I'm really getting into my Halloween stitching, and I noticed that Sarah had posted this fabric on her Instagram page, so I messaged her straight away and said yes please. And look at the fabric on the reverse. How absolutely fabulous is that? And Sarah very kindly popped in a floss ring for me to match. Now I'm not sure how many of these Sarah has left because her Halloween bags have proven really popular. But there is, I noticed, a lady on Instagram who is based in America, I believe, Vintage Owl Lady Bags. I think she has an Etsy shop, so I'll pop the link in below. And I saw that she is making bags with the same fabric. I've never purchased a bag from her, but they do look really lovely. So you might want to check her out. And yet more project bags. This is a new to me UK seller named Patchwork Paw Print. The lady is called Val and she has an Etsy store. This is one of her smaller bags. Is that character Belle and Boo? Or Bella and Boo? Can't remember. But another Halloween themed project bag. And that's the fabric on the reverse. And then this one, oh my goodness, the fabric. Look at that. Isn't it absolutely beautiful? Love that. And this is one of her larger bags. They are made to order, but I seem to remember mine came within 2 weeks. So do go and check Patchwork Paw Print out on Etsy. I will put in a link below. My final purchase is from Kathy Harberman, Hands On Design, the newish series from her, which is called Fright This Way. And I believe she's released the next 3 in the series, so I'll have to get those from Peakside Needleworks. And look, more bats. And I haven't yet decided if I'm going to do them on the black or on the kind of neutral linen. I think actually it's grey from Weeks Dye Works. I'm not a fan of stitching on black, but I do really like how they look on the grey. so we'll see. Freebies. Hopefully by now you have downloaded my sampler freebies, Be Kind, Be Brave, Be You, from my website. I released these earlier this month. And I'll show you the spools. I have them here. Be Kind. Be Brave. And these two were both stitched on 40 count water green from Zweigart. And then Be You. And I know I shouldn't have favourites, but I think this one is my favourite. And this is stitched on 40 count ballet slippers from Fox and Rabbit, such a gorgeous fabric. And I'd mentioned on my last video that I was having a lot of fun trying to thread some ribbon through the eyelets on the reverse there. And I did manage to get some, I think it was 2mm ribbon from eBay, and that made it a little easier. These spools I purchased from Etsy from a shop called Frin Things, and I think they're 3 3/4 inches high, which was perfect for these. Unfortunately, the circumference of the spool wasn't quite enough, so I had to be a little inventive. And what I decided to do was just bulk out the spool with some acid-free framers tape and just put layers and layers of that on until I got the required circumference. I have had quite a few questions recently about where I purchase my spools and bobbins from. I have purchased some from a local haberdashery in York. I think it's called Upside Down, the shop. But I get most of my spools from Etsy and eBay. I've put in a saved search on eBay for vintage spools and bobbins, and I almost daily get hits on that search. I have purchased this 5-inch spool. I got a few of those from eBay, and in fact this is the spool that I've mounted my new release Winifred Webb onto. Rather a large spool. This again was from eBay. These are the spools that I bought to mount Bethia, Fenshaw and Catherine Annie Jupp onto. And then recently I've managed to get some again from eBay with a much wider circumference, although they do look very similar. I think they're very similar height. And then this one was a purchase last week, and I did see in the description that it was 7 inches high, but I wasn't quite expecting it to be this big. And I got 4 of them, but I'm sure I'll manage to find something to mount onto that spool. There is also, if you are in the US, an Etsy store called Stag Lane Primitives, and she has some spools that are very similar to this. I have included in the freebie charts just a brief description as to how I mounted the samplers onto a spool, but of course they don't have to be mounted onto a spool, nor does Bethia Fenshaw or Catherine Annie Jupp or my new release Winifred Webb. I think they would be just as lovely either framed or made into a tiny pillow. If you do stitch my freebies, please do tag me Whilst Iris Snaps or Whilst Iris Snaps Designs, because I would love to see them. It appears to have gotten really dark. I think we're just about to get a downpour of rain, but I'm going to plough on because our 2 youngest children are due back from swimming any moment. and all peace will be shattered. So previous releases, I thought that with my new release being a sampler that I finished onto a spool, that I would share my two previous spool samplers, Bethia Fenshaw and Catherine Annie Jupp. So first up, we've got Bethia Fenshaw. I'll give you a twirl there. And Bethia was 8 years old when she stitched her sampler in 1861, and she stitched "Prepare to meet thy God." And as you can see, I've finished the sampler onto the spool with a lace back. And I do provide instructions of how I did this in my charts, but basically all I do is backstitch a border around the sampler. I then finger press the top and the bottom just to get a nice crisp edge. That's me finger pressing, by the way. I add some eyelets and then I lace the thread through. Easy peasy. If I can do it, anybody can. And I stitched the model on 40 count flax from Zweigart using Weeks Dyeworks Grapevine, but of course I provide a DMC alternative. And she is a teeny weeny 66 by 86 stitches and all full crosses. And you would think with an unusual name like Bethia Fenshaw, I would have had no trouble finding her in the records. But the only potential match I found was an Elizabeth Fenshaw in the 1881 census living at a public house in Islington in London. So who knows if this was our Bethia. It doesn't help that Fenshaw was often mistranscribed as the more popular Fanshaw. Next up is Catherine Annie Jupp, and Catherine stitched her sampler in 1877 in Westerham in Kent when she was 10 years old. And as you can see, Catherine's sampler is quite a bit wider than Bethia's. Her stitch count is 100 by 90, so the gap on the reverse there is narrower. So I added quite a few more eyelets just to get a really nice, neat finish. I don't think it would have worked quite so well with fewer eyelets. So what can I tell you about Catherine Annie Jupp? Well, she was born in 1867 in Westerham, Kent, to Thomas, a gardener, and his wife, Emma Bryant. She was one of 8 children and she worked in service until her marriage. She married a Charles Dennis, who was a naval officer, and they had 3 children together, Charles Jr., Annie and George. Sadly, at 37 years old, Catherine is widowed and she's left with 3 children to support on her own. She does marry again. She marries Henry Boddington in 1905 and they have 2 children of their own, Kathleen and Henry. And I have managed to find a couple of photographs of Catherine. One, I believe, is to commemorate her engagement to her first husband, Charles, and then one of her later in life, I would guess around her late 40s. So I'll put those in here. They are really lovely photographs. Isn't she beautiful? Unfortunately, Catherine is widowed once again, and by the 1939 census, she is listed as a carer for her 2 young grandchildren. So 73 years of age and bringing up 2 more children. Can you imagine? I have Catherine's original sampler to show. And when this sampler arrived, it had a few unwelcome visitors in it. In fact, quite a few unwelcome visitors. They were dead. There were lots of insects along here. So we got rid of those, and then Catherine's sampler went into quarantine for 2 weeks, just in case. And I think the only other thing to mention about the model, as I've said, it is 100 by 90 stitches, and I used 40 count antique lace from Seraphim Fabrics, which was an absolute dream to work on. And the red is Weeks Dye Works Cayenne, which is one of my favourite reds. And Catherine and Bethia's charts are available from my website. And so to my new release, just the second red sampler to be released from Whilst Iris Snaps Designs. This is Miss Winifred M. Webb 1869. Well, as you can see, I've mounted my model onto a spool, so I'll give you a little twirl there. And this is a 5-inch high spool. And I'd love to tell you all about Miss Winifred M. Webb, but unfortunately the stitcher hasn't really given me much to go on, just her name and the date. I did find a potential match, a Winifred Mary Webb, who was born in 1862 in Wimbledon, Surrey, which would have made her 7 at the time of stitching her sampler. And in fact, the antique sampler was purchased at an antiques fair just 30 miles from Surrey, so there is every chance that this could be our Winifred. And I hope it was, because she sounds like she could have been quite the character. She was the daughter of a coach builder who employed some 86 men at one time, and later in her life, rather unusually, she spent time in the Caribbean and the US, and then came back to England to live out her days with her sister and her niece in the coastal town of Hastings. So I think she may have had a few stories to tell. I've stitched the model on 40 count grey from Weeks Dye Works, and I used Soie d'Alger 946. I'll show you the original sampler because Winifred used more of an orangey red. She's rather delicate, but let me just see if I can hold up this red here. This is Soie d'Alger 944, and as you can see, that's a pretty perfect match. So I include both of these colour options in the chart. She's tiny. Her stitch count is just 87 by 82, and it's all full cross stitches. No speciality stitches in this one, so it's suitable for stitching on linen or Aida. And the chart is available from my website. Finally, to my first ever giveaway. Since my last video, I have reached 5,000 subscribers, which completely blows my mind. When I started this little journey, I had no idea that I would reach 100 subscribers, let alone 5,000. I was explaining to my children over tea the other night that I was thinking about having a giveaway, and my son said, "Wow, Mum, that's great. How many million subscribers do you have now?" Thanks, son. There's nothing like one's own children to keep one's feet firmly planted on the ground. So for my 5,000 subscriber giveaway, what is it that you can win? Well, as I have a new release that is a red sampler, I thought I would go with a red theme. So you can win a project bag, a red project bag from Penelope's Pocket. And when I messaged Sarah to let her know that this project bag was going to be a giveaway, she kindly added one of her lovely tassels and sent along a floss ring too to match. So thank you very much, Sarah. And as you can see, I've included lots of different types of red thread. Gotta love a theme. So how do you win this prize? I understand that I have to read out some rules. There are some rules that I must comply with. You must be over 18. You must be a subscriber of my channel, please. Do not use the word giveaway in your comment. This giveaway is not affiliated with YouTube in any way, shape or form. I will post anywhere in the world, and what I would like you to do, because I'm going to use a random comment picker, please could you answer the question, what is your favourite red thread? So the word that I'll be looking for when I use the comment picker will be red. Okay, the deadline for the competition or the giveaway is midnight GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, on September 23rd. And after that time, I will, as I said, use a random comment picker to choose a winner. So good luck. And as I said, don't forget to tell me what your favourite red thread is. And I think that's about it. I've probably forgotten to say lots of things, but I'll have to edit it in later. I do have notes, but rarely look at them. Why bother? So until next time, take care. Bye bye.